Hallo Deutschlerner! You already know how to conjugate regular verbs in German in the present tense. Today I'm going to teach you how to use some of the stem-changing verbs in the present tense in German. This video is generously supported by viewers like you. If you want to help support this channel and get extras to go with each lesson, including worksheets and answer keys, and MP3 versions of each lesson, click the join button below this video or go to patreon.com/Mr. L. Antrim. These people have already signed up and I thank them for their support. The stem of a verb is the part of the verb before the ending of en or n in the infinitive form. So the stem of machen is mach, and the stem of kennen is ken. Normally when you change a verb to match the subject of the sentence, you simply remove the en or n from the end of the infinitive and add the ending that corresponds to your subject. For example, ich mache, du magst, sie, es macht, and so on. Sometimes there is a change that's required within the stem of the verb. We call these verbs stem-changing verbs. Grammar terminology isn't very creative in the naming department. There are three categories of stem-changing verbs in German in the present tense: a to a umlaut, e to I, and e to ie. You have likely come across all three of these categories of verbs before in your German learning already, but you just didn't realize it until now. Let's get to some examples. The verb fahren means to drive, and it falls into the first category of a to a umlaut. These stem changes, however, only affect the du and RCS forms, so the full conjugation of fahren looks like this. Ich fahre. Du fährst. Sie, es fährt. Wir fahren. Ihr fahrt. Sie fahren. As you can see, we simply added an umlaut for the du and RCS forms of the verb. That sounds simple enough, but there is one little quirk about this change. You may remember from my lesson about regular conjugation, if the last letter of the verb stem is D or T, you need to add E between the stem, the part of the verb before the en, and the conjugation ending for du, sie, es, and ihr, because otherwise the word would be practically impossible to pronounce. The additional E makes the word easier to pronounce. Well, if that verb also has a stem change from a to a umlaut, it does not get this E added for the du and RCS forms. The verb laden is one such verb. When added to the prefix ein, you get the word to invite. Here are some examples with it. Ich lade deine Mutter zum Abendessen ein. I am inviting your mother to dinner. Was? Warum lädst du meine Mutter zum Abendessen ein? What? Why are you inviting my mother to dinner? lädt deine Mutter zum Abendessen ein. Haha, he's inviting your mother to dinner. Wir laden deine ganze Familie zum Abendessen ein. We are inviting your entire family to dinner. Ladet ihr meinen Vater auch zum Abendessen? Are you also inviting my father to dinner? Nein, sie laden deinen Vater nicht ein. No, they're not inviting your father. Notice how I didn't add an E between lädt and the ST or T endings for du and RCS. How about the fact that I did add one for the ear form ladet where there is no umlaut? Well, this is exactly what happens with these verbs. If there is an umlaut added to the du and RCS forms, don't add an E in between the verb stem and the ending. One other thing that you might notice about these verbs is that sometimes you'll come across a verb that has AU in the middle of it. Sometimes this requires us to put an umlaut over the du and RCS forms. The umlaut still goes over the A. This happens in the verb laufen. Ich laufe jeden Morgen 2 Kilometer. I run 2 kilometers every day. Warum läufst du so viel? Why do you run so much? Mein Vater läuft auch so viel. My father runs that much too. Wir laufen zusammen. We run together. Warum lauft ihr so viel? Why do you all run so much? Alle Familienmitglieder laufen 2 Kilometer. All family members run 2 kilometers. Our second category of stem-changing verbs is E to I. This includes such verbs as geben, to give. As with the previous category, you only change the stem in the du and RCS forms. Here are a few examples of geben in action. Ich gebe meiner Frau eine Halskette. I am giving my wife a necklace. Was gibst du mir zum Geburtstag? What are you giving me for my birthday? Hans gibt seinem Vater einen Golfschläger. Hans gives his father a golf club. Wir geben einander Geschenke. We give each other gifts. Was gebt ihr eurer Oma zum Geburtstag? What are you giving your grandmother for her birthday? Die Kinder geben ihren Freunden Schokolade. The children are giving their friends chocolate. One verb in this category is a bit weirder than the rest. The verb nehmen not only changes from an E to an I in the stem, but it also replaces the H with an extra M, so instead of du nimmst and RZS nimmt, we instead get du nimmst and RZS nimmt. Here it is in action. Ich nehme diese Bluse in einer Nummer kleiner. I'll take this blouse in a size smaller. Nimmst du dein Bärchen mit? Are you taking your teddy bear along? Nimmt mir die Schokolade weg. He is taking away my chocolate. Wir nehmen keine Drogen. We don't take drugs. Warum nehmt ihr euren Bruder nicht mit? Why don't you take your brother along? Die Kinder nehmen ihre Spielzeuge. The children take their toys. The last category of stem-changing verbs is E to IE. As with all of the other categories, only the do and RZS forms get the stem change. You have probably already seen this in the verb sehen. Don't forget you can also use sehen with prefixes such as fern or aus, which changes the meaning of the verb. This means that you can have more versatile examples like these. Ich sehe heute Abend fern. I am watching TV this evening. Du siehst ja ganz toll aus. You look really great. Meine Schwester sieht die Schlange nicht. My sister doesn't see the snake. Wir sehen uns nächste Woche. We will see each other next week. Seht ihr gerne fern? Do you like watching TV? Unsere Kinder sehen müde aus. Our children look tired. There aren't any weird rules to be added for the verbs that change from E to IE. This is a good time, however, to remind you that some stems end in S, set, X, or Z, and they require no S in the do form. This can be seen in the verb lesen. Ich lese gerne Romane. I like reading novels. Was liest du gerade? What are you reading right now? Mein Bruder liest gar nicht. My brother doesn't read at all. Wir lesen zuerst die Speisekarte. We are reading the menu first. Lest ihr täglich die Zeitung? Do you read the newspaper daily? Die Angestellten lesen den Gästen die Regeln vor. The employees read the guests the rules. There are quite a few verbs that use one of these stem changes. Here's a quick list of verbs in each of the three categories that you're more than likely going to see as you're learning German. I only included the base forms of the verbs, so verbs with prefixes are not included on the list. If a prefix is used, it's used like any other prefix. Separable ones are separated, and inseparable ones are not. The conjugation of the verb does not change based on the prefix. You can download this list for free from my website via the link in the description. Technically speaking, there is one more category of stem-changing verb, but it only happens with one verb, so I would simply classify it as an irregular verb that has to be learned on its own. That verb is stoßen, which requires an umlaut for the do and RZS forms. Here are a few examples of it. Ich stoße meinen Bruder mit dem Fuß. I bump my brother with my foot. Warum stößt du mich in die Seite? Why are you poking me in the side? Der Karate-Lehrer stößt mit der Faust gegen die Scheibe. The karate instructor hits his fist against the board. Wir stoßen mit den Fäusten gegen die Scheibe. We hit our fists against the boards. Warum stoßt ihr mir Messer in den Rücken? Et tu, Brute? Why are you stabbing me in the back? You too, Brutus? Die Bauer stoßen die Bohnenstangen in die Erde. The farmers are pushing the bean poles into the ground. Now that you've seen examples of all of the types of stem-changing verbs in the present tense in German, it's time for you to practice them in the comments down below. Use one of the verbs from each of the categories, at least the main three, you don't necessarily have to use stoßen, but create your own German sentences in the comments down below. I'll correct what you write. If you want to practice these verbs even more, stop by germanwithantrim.com and download a worksheet and answer key for this lesson, along with a copy of the script. Das ist alles für heute. Danke fürs Zuschauen. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss!